turn this off. All right, Sashi, you ready to record? Okay, perfect. All right, thanks everybody for coming out. So I hope everybody bears with me. This is kind of our first class, and I am very happy that a bunch of you showed up. That totally isn't making me super nervous or anything. So we're going to cover two things tonight. I'm going to talk about kind of playing a powerhouse wrestler, and ideally what I'm going to break it down on is kind of my definition of what makes a powerhouse wrestler, and I'm obviously willing to take any kind of extra input from some of the other experienced folks around here as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about playing a powerhouse wrestler. Again, just based on my experience and kind of what I've learned from different people. And then last but not least, for the folks who aren't playing powerhouse wrestlers, I'm going to go with a little bit of just kind of my take on what I've learned about fighting powerhouse wrestlers, because that's a question that often comes up when I'm carding with other people. And as part of that, Strike here is going to also work on discussing selling, and I believe your plan was to have about 10 to 15, a little bit of hands-on, I believe,
yep.
Before or after your piece?
This will be at the end of my piece.
Got
so
it.
Basically, what's going to happen after we both have a little discussions is we're going to have a little exercise at the end where we'll pick a couple people at random to basically showcase what they've learned from tonight's little class. So you're all in for a treat.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So start off, let's talk about what is a powerhouse wrestler. There's a lot of different definitions, but poking around a little bit and kind of what was explained to me when I first got started on this, generally, powerhouse wrestler is usually going to be somebody who's kind of bigger, stronger, usually tougher than the average wrestler. They don't have to be, but often they're going to be a little bit slower than some of the other people as well. They're not going to have big, flashy moves like, say, your high flyers or your showboaters, but the moves that they do have should really be showing kind of that exceptional strength and that really big amount of endurance that they've got. Now, you can play just like a pure powerhouse and just grab people and slam them around the ring. You can also mix it with different styles as well to kind of, give yourself a little variation. For example, I play basically a powerhouse brawler. So in addition to, slamming people around and suplexing them and stuff, I'll also do big boots and punches and stuff like that. Maybe even mix in a couple of super kicks that look really good to kind of add to the effect. A technical wrestler, a good example in SL wrestling would be somebody like Tonka. Does slams and stuff, but also shows kind of power when he's doing some of the technical work. So he's doing work holds and breaks and so on. And you could also have a powerhouse striker who's probably doing less of the punching, but maybe he's going a little bit faster than a straight powerhouse and has some kick variety that's in there. So there's some really good options that you can go with that as well. So some common traits that you'll generally see with a powerhouse is they're going to be big. They don't have to be, but usually. They're going to be portrayed as pretty strong. They're generally not going to be as agile as other wrestlers. It's not a hard requirement, any of these, but it's generally what you're going to see. They also tend to have a somewhat more straightforward moveset. So you'll see slams, you'll see suplexes. As Safira pointed out, you may yeet somebody out of the ring. That's actually something that I did a good bit. You're not going to see a lot of flashy, high-flying moves. Generally, like if they get up on the turnbuckle to jump on somebody, it's going to be impressive if they hit, or kind of devastating if they don't. So, any questions on kind of the definition of a powerhouse before we move on? All right, and we'll just move on. So, section 2. That's a good point there, Sly. Section 2. Let's talk about playing a powerhouse. So, first of all, just kind of a key trait strength and endurance are really kind of your best go-tos. So if you got to move, you want to try to sell strength. You want to try to sell that staying power. Now, that's not to say you don't sell fatigue. As a matter of fact, far from it. You should when it makes sense. But be tactical about it. Don't use it too early and start undermining your character. Don't never use it and basically look like there's no reason, why your opponent won if you're scheduled to lose. There are times as a powerhouse where no selling can be very useful. Again, you want to be really careful with it. One of my earliest matches against Eris over there, as a matter of fact, was a bit where they came in and tried to spear me. And we totally no-selled that because it made sense given the size difference. So, yeah, just a couple of things on that. So, grabs, slams, suplexes, those kind of moves, those are your friend. Those are probably going to be, your go-tos a lot of the time. Kind of going back to what I said earlier about yeets, don't be afraid to throw a motherfucker. So there are things that really get a good reaction out of the crowd or out of comms when you just basically grab somebody and yeet them the hell out of the ring. Yeah, it's a really, really good point, Hammer. Definitely no selling off of like really simple moves works really well. If somebody, really goes to town on somebody and you no-sell it, you kind of buried them. Don't do that. So, now, a couple other things here. Just because you're big, strong, and enduring, you're not a demigod. You still got to sell. If you no-sell all the time, outside of maybe, you're doing a squash match or something like that, which should be rare, it's going to look like ass. Don't do that. So if you're playing like a straight powerhouse or like a powerhouse brawler or something like that, if you're not doing like some sort of powerhouse high flyer or, if you're doing like some sort of luchador powerhouse combo or something like that, you really want to keep the diving and flying moves to a minimum. You can do them. It's not to say no, but those should be pretty rare. And when you do them, if they connect, man, they should look devastating because literally you just dropped all your weight on somebody. And if they miss, sell like it hurts because it should. So now, this is one thing that I learned after some feedback during one of my matches. As a general rule, other wrestlers really shouldn't be able to lift you up unless they're also a powerhouse or pretty close to you as far as like size, weight, and strength. So, there have been a couple of times where it might seem like a cool idea to go, oh yeah, pick me up. Be aware of the difference of size. Somebody who's, nearly half your weight picking you up is gonna look weird. It's not to say that they can't. There are times where you can pull that off. Your opponent damn well better be selling immediately afterwards because they probably just compressed their spine. So for that, a flip or something like that's doable. Something where they can get some leverage is fine. But if they're doing like a gorilla press or a torture rack or something like that, probably not so much. And if you're worried about Powerhouse just being kind of limiting, just because of the limited moveset, mix it up. And like I said at the beginning, mix in some brawling or striker really looks good. A technical can really look good. Again, you could probably do a high flyer, though that's going to definitely create some challenges. So, don't go into that, just on a whim. Think it through and figure out what moveset's really going to look good for you. So, anybody else or anybody got any questions on kind of playing a powerhouse? Just again, kind of based on my personal experience. All right. Yeah, and that's an excellent point, Hammer. Size matters. Hmm. If you got more than just strength, how do you not squash the image of the opponent? So I'm actually about to get into that because the next part is kind of fighting a powerhouse. I think in a lot of ways, I'll get to your question in a bit, Sly. I think in a lot of ways, some of that's kind of discussing with your match partner and try to figure out, okay, what moves do they have? One of the things that I have generally recommended, if you're big and strong and you're fighting like a smaller opponent or somebody who's not a powerhouse, by all means, if they get in close and you grab them, punish them for it. Obviously, I mean that's kind of what your moves should be about. For a smaller opponent or somebody who's maybe like a high flyer or is playing, somebody who's, let's be honest, just not in the same weight class, speed is their friend, in my opinion. I'll get into that a little bit as well in the fighting a powerhouse section. But really, what I've generally said is one, use speed. You should be more agile than a powerhouse. So that means dodging some of those, clotheslines or attempted grabs or something like that. Perfectly fine. In fact, a good way to kind of let them look good. But another thing, if they're going to kick them, or they're going to, if they're going to do like a drop kick or something like that plants you on your ass, momentum. A classic that I like to recommend is, come off the ropes, do an AV clothesline to like duck under, what looks like maybe an attempt to grab or attempt to clothesline somebody, and then come off, do a rope shoot off the ropes behind said powerhouse, and while I'm turning around, kick him in the face. Just, absolutely turn yourself into just this little speedball. Momentum helps. If you're gonna, if you're going to get up on the turnbuckle and kick him in the face, that is also good. A good way to kind of sell that is have the powerhouse charging at you. So that way you're basically, your kicks using their momentum against them. So stuff like that can work. Other good things, really just segueing into the fighting in the powerhouse section, but other good things, honestly, work the legs. Aim for the knees. If you can keep a powerhouse from kind of being able to move around or be able to exert their ability to pick you up and drop you, that helps. Keeping on their ass, also another good thing. I like to say for a lot of people when they're fighting purity or depravity, aim for the knees, aim for the head. If you're kicking them in the chest or you're trying to do body blows, it's probably not going to do much. You do an F2 off the ropes and do a drop kick to the head though, yeah, sure, it'll knock her down. It's probably not going to do a lot of actual damage, but the brain's still going to get rattled. So do it a couple of times, and she's going to slow down. She's not going to be as quick to grab you. She's going to be a little more wary because you know what? That still hurts. That answer your question there, Ignitus? Cool. Sly. What if you weren't a powerhouse in a previous Fed, but another Fed thinks of you as a powerhouse? That's a good question. But another Fed thinks of you as a powerhouse. I mean, ultimately, you kind of define your character. So if somebody's thinking of you as a powerhouse, but you're not, I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's inappropriate to correct them. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Strike, here as well. That's a good example of, a smaller opponent taking on somebody much bigger, or taking on somebody bigger than them. But back to you, Sly. My thoughts, honestly, that's probably just more a matter of just talking to them, just saying, hey, I appreciate that that's what you think my gimmick is, but this is actually what my gimmick is. Go ahead, Hammer. What you got? That's actually a good question. I wasn't really sure how to answer.
In some instances, you will see things like that. It's not necessarily a directing the character, but when you look relative to the rest of the roster, you may fall into a different category. So, like, in one Fed, Alex may be a cruiserweight. In another Fed, Alex may be, middle of the road as far as size of a wrestler, anything like that. So you'll see sometimes, like, Okay, sorry. You'll see sometimes where you'll have situations like that, and they tweak a little bit based off of wherever they are. So like everybody saw how Hulk Hogan wrestled in WWE. Hulk Hogan went to Japan and he's over there doing, insecurities and stuff like that. Never did that in the other place. It was just relative to where he was. Some size and style changes.
Yeah. Good points. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Any other questions? They already started on the how to when you're not a powerhouse and you're squaring off against one. So might as well just go ahead and pick that up and go with it.
All right. I was thinking of what if you're a powerhouse, you're someone who's very technical, who's going after your limbs and stuff like that.
Yep.
That could slow you down too.
Yes, it can. And that's perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, technical wrestlers are one of those ones that I'm of the opinion can prevail pretty well against the powerhouse, because while the powerhouse has strength, their main thing is I'm going to grab you and I'm going to throw you into something or over something, as the case may be. Whether it's the mat, the ropes, whatever. But they're not really going to be able to handle somebody who grabs their wrist and torques it in just the right way. They're like, oh shit, I can't move my arm properly. So, technical wrestlers aren't necessarily going to have, I think, a huge advantage, but they should be able to use their skill and knowledge in the ring to go ahead and do that. And yes, that's an excellent point. The downside, you don't just walk up to a powerhouse and decide, okay, I'm going to grab you and put you in a wrist lock. Because odds are good, you walk up to me, I'm putting a foot or a foot in your face. So, well, I mean, yeah, still try, but yes, momentum, build up to it. Not kick the guy's knee out from under him or something like that, and then grab that arm and torque it behind their back if you can. Ray, go ahead.
So, does it make sense every now and then to do a thing where someone smaller in a sheer feat of strength manages to pick up a powerhouse in a once in a while type thing? Is that good to do?
I don't think it's bad. You want to be very careful with it because it can very easily, negatively impact a powerhouse.
I'm thinking like John Cena lifting the Big Show type feat of strength.
Yeah, I mean, again, doable. What I would recommend if that smaller opponent's going to do that, though.
Is it powerhouse? Yeah, I guess.
Well, it's a good point too.
If I could weigh in here, I
Let
could give a perfect example of that. A previous match that I just did recently, my powerhouse Tira versus Dante's Temujin. Temujin lifted Tira at the very end of the match, but he immediately sold his back afterwards. That is just one of those rare cases where that could work.
And that was the point I was going to make. Go ahead, straight.
Yeah, I was just going to start. I think we were both thinking the same thing.
Probably.
Saphir brought up a really good point, and this is something I'll cover in the selling segment of this class. But if you're going up against a powerhouse and you're lifting someone up, basically do your research on your opponent. Find out what weight class they are, the height difference. Figure out how best to accommodate something like that for those types of moves, because you'd be surprised. You have two powerhouses. They might be drastically different in size and weight. So you want to be able to sell that by, so one person lifts another that's heavier than them and taller than them. They're still going to be hurting after they perform the move. Both wrestlers will be hurting after the move is performed. So selling after moves like that is a really good thing to keep in mind. And I'll be covering more of that in my selling segment.
Yep. Yeah, and that's an excellent point there as well. Again, know your opponent. you know, if like Prince Escamoso in UFW isn't going to pick up depravity anytime soon. Just unlikely. I mean, he might, and then I'm probably going to fall on him. So that's that's well, maybe, but still, physics comes into play. Rocky, you had a question? Yes.
Not really a question, more of keep in mind there's a lot of variables when it comes to smaller characters lifting heavier opponents. For example, um, when it comes to suplex, there is such a thing called manipulation of gravity, where a smaller character can suplex someone bigger. Just keep in mind, one, be careful with how you use it. Two, like you said, you need to be careful how a bigger fighter can end up looking weak because someone smaller is lifting them. And there's just so many variables that I'm pretty sure your class is gonna cover. Another variable would be, is it a tag team match? Is it gonna be like 2 or 3 people? An example being, um, I'm trying to remember the name, The Shield. The Shield lifted a heavy character with 3 people, and that seems normally doable.
It's a fair point. And yeah, you're right. There are circumstances where you can do stuff like that. A excellent example, and we've said this multiple times already. Momentum. If you can get your opponent off the ropes, and you're smaller than a powerhouse character, or even really just another character who's just bigger than you are, there's the possibility, or you can make it look good doing a suplex off of that if you're a smaller character, because you're obviously using that forward momentum to kind of help carry them over.
Oh,
Yep.
I have one more.
But I would still say, even after doing that suplex though, sell. Because it should still look like you did a bit of effort to pull that off. So, Cameron.
So I was thinking, what if like, you're a powerhouse, say you're a powerhouse, but you're also facing another powerhouse who is bigger and stronger than you? What do you do in that situation?
It's an excellent question. In a lot of cases, powerhouse versus powerhouse, you can kind of go ham a little bit, just because you guys should be using more or less the same. Thank you, Dante. But you guys should be using more or less the same move sets. You might showing fatigue's probably your best bet on that. But if you're playing like a big tough person, and yes, you're fighting another bigger, tougher person, again, it's just a matter of what's the big difference between the two. If you're talking, all right, I'm fighting somebody who's got a foot on me and 100 pounds, okay, show fatigue a little bit more. But, again, you're playing a character that's supposed to be strong and tough, so, you should be able to kind of match them blow for blow on that sort of thing. So getting into a lockup with another powerhouse when you're playing a powerhouse should be a feasible thing. You might just have to work out with your opponent, okay, what's going to work as far as, who's going to come out the winner on that lockup and why. We have. As a matter of fact, I literally got done with a powerhouse versus powerhouse match. So yeah, I think a lot of it is just a matter of figuring out kind of, what is going to look good and what's going to sell both characters really well. And again, fatigue is a good way to kind of sell some of that stuff, to just show, hey, you may be the smaller wrestler, you can still, put some punishment on the other powerhouse, but you're just going to show a little bit more fatigue maybe than the other guy. That answer it? You good?
Yep.
Okay, Dante, you had a thing you wanted to say?
That's a really excellent point. I'm glad that you actually pointed
That is
that
actually
out.
a really good point. Yeah, that is actually an excellent point because again, the guy may be bigger and stronger, but he's also got to haul that weight around a lot. So yeah, those are all really, really good points, Dante. Also true. Again, sometimes you actually give up a little bit of something for all that strength. So
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. There's always going to be a drawback.
exactly. So for just kind of continue on the thread with kind of dealing, fighting powerhouses. Kind of as I said earlier, momentum's your friend. Um, you know, rope shoots, getting in behind, keeping the guy from basically being able to grab you is probably your best friend. Target the knees, target the head. Targeting the arms is an option, but expect that you're going to get punched. So you want to be careful about that. Get them on the ground and do stuff to them on the ground. Stomps are good. Work the leg, fist drop or something like that. If they're on the ground and you got, you just did like, kind of a combination of stuff to them to kind of keep them down there stunned for a bit. Jump up and, jump up on the turnbuckle and just, add a little extra height to whatever it is you're going to drop on them. The back's doable. I would say back of the legs is probably, if you've got to move for it, is a good idea. Yes, kitty backpack is always an option. God, that was hilarious. But the biggest thing, well, yes, but the problem is you also have to consider that is probably one of the biggest parts of your opponent. I generally think attacking somebody's back is, again, depends on the move. But I think for the most part, you're probably going to be focusing more on, like maybe trying to knock them off balance, like knock them forward or something like that. If you can get some moves in where when you're hitting somebody's back or something like that, or if they've got an injury history where they've, maybe gotten, slammed into a post or something like that, or into the stairs. Shut up, Strike Era. That's an option as well. But again, you probably want to just know your opponent and set that thing up appropriately. But yeah, if you're just gonna okay, I'm gonna bounce off the ropes and kick him in the back a lot, eventually it's just gonna not look all that great, I think. And again, I think it would require more effort to kind of pull that off too. So one other thing that I kind of want to call out, at least for me anyways, that I think works really well. Don't be afraid to dodge out of the way of a powerhouse if they're like charging at you or something like that. There's a reason why people say that Purity's, number one, kind of number one opponent is a set of metal stairs. But it can be an effective way to put a little hurt on a powerhouse by using their own momentum against them. Get them to charge at you, dodge out, use your agility to dodge out of the way, and they eat a face full of turnbuckle. Even better if that turnbuckle's accidentally got knocked off earlier in that match. Or if you're outside the ring, get them to plow into a barricade or the stairs.
Or the comm screen, like that one time.
I was going to say, or the comm screen if you have set it up ahead of time and want for a really amusing moment. A giant popcorn machine. Again, talk to your creative team first. These are all good things, I think, that, use the environment a little bit to kind of put the hurt on your opponent is a great way to kind of slow them down and build up, some really interesting and fun spots that I think look really good and sell both, that, your powerhouse is, big and strong and kind of brutal, but you're able to use that agility to kind of, avoid getting tagged. The one thing I would generally recommend most people don't do against a powerhouse, don't get into a lockup. There's, if you're a technical wrestler, yeah, odds are good you're going to be okay. If you're kind of equal weight size as somebody who's playing a powerhouse, get into a lockup, sure, that can work. But if you're a high flyer and you're like, yeah, and then we're going to get into a lockup, yeah, you're going for a ride, and it's not going to be fun. So, I think that's kind of about all I've got. Oh, one other thing to go back to the whole get them on the ground. Um, you know, while they're down there, don't let them get back up. Stomps are good. Jump on them and do like mount punches or was it the hard elbow strikes? I think are the ones that are on the ground already. Stuff like that is a great way to just kind of lay a beat down on them while they're still laying there. And that again can build towards later spots. Yeah, a leg drop works too. These are all basic things, but they can look good and show that you're dishing out a little bit of pain to your powerhouse opponent while they're still down there trying to get back up. So, anybody got any questions or added commentary that they want to make on kind of fighting a powerhouse? Alrighty. Oop. Yeah, no worries, Saphira. All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Strikira. Go ahead and talk about selling. This seems like a good way to segue into it. You're up.
Awesome. No worries. All right. So, just touching base real quick. Let's have a little discussion. So, what is selling? Like, just show of hands. Like, obviously, we're all wrestlers here. We all kind of know. But just for curiosity, what is selling? You can tell me. All right, which cuts? All right, lay it on us, Sophia.
Selling is basically the moment of selling the impact or injury a wrestler can take, such as, say, Depravity were to slam Strikira in a suplex. Strikira would sell the impact of the force that went into her back hitting the mat.
Excellent. Yeah, so Saphira's nailed it pretty good. So let me just kind of expand on that a little bit more. So, in my experience, having wrestled for pretty much a year and a half, I see selling as an art form. And it's just taking hits, bumps from wrestling moves, showcasing and telegraphing those moves, and basically giving the illusion of actual combat in the ring. Pretty much like how it's done in real life for in scripted matches in wrestling. You're doing it in front of a crowd, in front of a live audience, in front of broadcasters, with the intention of really showcasing and selling that match to the end user, to the audience. And it's something that's done with a high degree of skill, and it comes with practice. Because not only are you maintaining kayfabe while doing so, you're keeping the crowd entertained, and you're making yourself and your opponent look good. Selling isn't a one-sided ordeal. It is something that both the match winner and match loser must engage in order to sell, in order to basically make that match look amazing. And there are a number of different ways that we go about with selling that I will be covering. So I'm going to get right into it with the types that I have identified over my time in the ring and also watching various matches. So probably the first one and easiest one out of them is offensive selling, which is basically the idea of maintaining the flow of a match, minimizing the amount of static, positioning animations or, just standing still. So here's an example. I'll use an example here. Purity, if you don't mind, I'm going to target you for a moment. We're going to get a little bit of practical demonstration here.
Woo! Okay.
I'll have you target me too.
Oh yeah, let me take care of that real quick.
AO off.
Let me turn mine off.
Thank you. Okay, so here's before we throw punches, I'll just kind of show some examples. So as you're seeing, if you look at both of us, we're just kind of standing still. Not a lot's going on. We're just, let's say, for example, we're in the middle of a spot. It doesn't look great if we're just standing like this. But if we use, let's say, for example, the cell HUD, we go to green or yellow to show fatigue. That's an example of offensive selling because you're basically showing the fatigue level during the match. And that can be related to whatever spots you are currently in. You generally want to do this in between moves. So like if you're, for example, let's say, for example, Purity, why don't you hit me in the gut for a second?
Happily.
Yep. So you just hit me in the gut. I'll do like a standing chest up because that's the closest I can get to the gut with this HUD. But let's say, for example, I return the favor with an air spin kick to Purity. Staggers her. So I'm selling like this. This is just like me going right into a stance, but I was still hit previously in the gut, so I want to showcase that. Now, there are two ways I can do this. I could just go back to a standing cell, which breaks the stance I was in. Or, if I wanted to make it look a little bit interesting, I could go back into that stance, but then I could do... So this applies if you have the any cells, which I'll get into shortly, but I could throw in an AS chest, and now I'm kind of selling... Actually, no. You're right. AS rib is probably a lot better.
Yeah, AS ribs is what I...
There we go, yeah. Thank you. So here you go. AS ribs kind of doesn't look too... It can look a little goofy at times, but you kind of get the idea. You want to kind of make the illusion look a little bit more fluid. So, but generally with offensive selling, it involves like throwing, fighting stances or doing a taunt to pump up the crowd in between moves. Generally, you want to do that when you have your opponent like on the ground or against the ropes, like you've been wailing on them for a bit, and like if you're taking a break in the middle of the match, use that time to kind of collect yourselves. It could be as much as like, okay, let's see, I just got hit in the gut or I got hit in the chest, so I'm going to go to the corner, I'm going to sell. That way you're not just standing around waiting for your opponent to do something. You're actively showing that you are taking a beating during the match, and this works for both opponents in the match, and it makes both of you look great because one, you're showing that your opponent is fighting back and putting up a resistance, and two, you're showing that that this match is not a pushover for you. So
another, just to interject something as well, another,
yeah, sure, go ahead.
my opinion anyways, another good use of like maybe the green or even the yellow fatigue can be used to sell fatigue, but it can also be used to sell kind of a little bit of emotion. Like I like to use green fatigue often at the start of a match to just show that depravity is just kind of this, simmering pot of, hatred and rage. So that way she's just not standing there. She's like standing there just like, I am going to come over there and just absolutely mess up your world. At least that's how it looks to me anyways. But it can be a useful tool.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's in my opinion, it's probably the most useful thing that I've found with SL wrestling. Just being able to showcase the power of certain moves, and it doesn't even have to be something like, for example, like with that air spin kick that I did, Purity. That's an air spin kick that I specifically created for Powerhouses, because not all the time you're going to be able to knock your opponent down. If you come close, I'll just do it again so I can show.
Yeah, one sec. I was grabbing a drink real quick.
You're good. You're good. So you can just watch what happens. So I do the air spin kick. It staggers her. Usually that just puts people on their ass, like, you know, just knocks them, sends them flying. But this one staggers because you're taking into account you're doing a kick against a taller opponent, someone that can take the kick but still receive punishment from said kick. So offensive selling also entails knowing what cell animations to use for certain moves as well. How to make your opponent take a certain move in consideration for their fighting style and their gimmick, and also what that wrestler is wanting to gain from the match. What the outcome is going to be. Like, is it going to be a long drawn out match? Is it going to be something that is 5 minutes? Like, all those kind of factor in. What I would recommend, if you're doing things like this, create a folder with specific moves that are tailored for specific types of wrestlers. If you have specific moves for Powerhouse wrestlers, they're easy to plug in for a match and use, and you got a good amount of variations. So, like, make variations for your finishers, for your signatures, for your arsenal of moves that you have tailored towards different fighting styles that your opponent might have. Anyone got any questions about offensive selling? All right. In that case, we'll move on to the next part, which is defensive selling, which pretty much is the art of taking whatever bump your opponent throws at you. And as most of us already know, we do this via selling HUDs like Q2 and Reflex. Or we utilize other features like Honey Blunt's Any Cells, which basically add onto your already existing selling animations and allow you to sell multiple body parts at once. These are really good assets to have. It's highly recommended that you should always go into a match with at least one selling HUD active at all times. Because the general rule of thumb in SL wrestling and in wrestling in real life is ABS, always be selling. You always have to sell your opponent's moves in order to ensure the flow of the match, and generally as a sign of respect as well. So, for example, Purity, why don't you hit me with some moves? It doesn't have to knock me down at first. Just want to showcase how they should be sold.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I was actually trying to find our card from beginning of February, but it's probably too much. Try to pull that off. So yeah, let's go with let's start simple.
This is not simple, but okay.
Come on. It's just some punches.
So, as you can see, I'm just kind of going through different cells, but you can kind of see what I'm doing right here. Like, I could straight up go into using the Q2 to sell, like I could sell kneeling head after taking all those hits, but I'm also adding on additional cells with the honey blunts, any cells. So I'm doing an AS head, I can throw in an AS chest, I can throw in, essentially I'm selling multiple hits that I've taken, because, well, I just got pummeled. And you want to showcase that you just got pummeled. Yeah, that was about, I guess, around 6. But you get the idea. So, and this also goes back to offensively selling a little bit as well. If I was to just stand up, I still need to sell after getting those hits. You could just go yellow sell, but it doesn't translate well if you were just a minute ago selling multiple parts of your body. So you want to so this is where like things like any cells come in, where you could just sell multiple things. So let's say, for example, I got hit from behind as well as head. Then I can do like an AS head, AS back. Or I could do an AS head, AS chest, or AS ribs. You get the idea. You basically want to showcase how to really sell the fact that you just took those hits. Look at where the punches land, where the kicks land, where the actual moves connect with your avatar's body, and play around with the cell HUDs. See, okay, what works, what doesn't work for a particular spot or a particular move, because you'll be surprised. Like, you'll think, okay, let's, like, actually got a good idea. Hit me with something like a Dark Discus Lariat. I want to showcase this real quick.
Okay. Here, I'll just rope shoot off of that.
Okay, so I just got hit with a Dark Discus Lariat. And this harks to a little bit of knowing this, doing your research on your opponent. Due to the size difference, Dark Discus Lariats usually hit around the kind of the chest neck area. But because of the clearly defined size difference between me and Depravity here, I actually took the hit right to the head. So I would need to sell appropriately. I can just literally lay like here, do an AS head, and sell the head that way. It actually looks a lot cleaner than doing a face down head sell, because I'm still kind of on my belly for this, while with the usual clicking the face down head cell from the HUD, it just turns me around. So this also translates into things like flow of movement. If I was to do, like, let's say, for example, do an FD get up basic, it doesn't look as well with the flow if I'm in a face down head cell position from the usual Q2 HUD. Wow. And I'll get Depravity to hit me again with that lariat, so I can show. If I just do an AS head from this position, and I want to do a get up basic, it translates a lot better. You can see the flow of it. And I can just go back to selling AS head. So this is where it comes to knowing when to sell, how to do the sell, and how to make it flow with the match. And that's kind of where defensive selling comes in, because you're essentially it's your responsibility to make your opponent's moves look like gold. Like, you need to show the amount of damage that is delivered from those impacts, and that way, it makes your comeback. Let's say, for example, you're in spot 3 and you just got your ass kicked in spot 2 for like a good bit, and you're doing a fight back to take the win. It makes your comeback look all the more sweeter that you persevered through all that pain, all that desperation in order to take the win, and that will bang really well with the crowd. So now that we covered that, is there any questions about defensive selling, or anything that you want to know about, like the any cells?
Yes,
Or-
actually, I do have a question, Strike, here on that. Like, for example, a move I've used a few times. How would you sell something like a double Dark Discus Lariat, where both opponents do the Dark Discus on each other?
Oh, for that, sometimes it's just a matter of playing around with the cell animation for it and just timing. It can be a little bit difficult given that you're trying to both do the same move at once, but if you time it well in the gesture and you both play the cell animation at the same time, or you could use a totally different cell animation that knocks you both out. That's probably the best way of showcasing that. I think there was a match I remember fairly recently where Tracy Stallings and Sanderis both knocked each other out with a brutal. I can't remember what it was. Was it a drop? It wasn't a drop kick. It was something else. I think it was like a punch or something. But I remember seeing that, like, they both played this cell animation at the same time that just caused them both to twirl around and just collapse to the ground. And it was perfect. It got a huge pop with the crowd. So that sort of thing just works. Oh yeah. Oh, it was a triple punch. Oh, that's right, because Foxy, you were involved in that match too. You also took the bump. Yeah.
'Cause the reason I asked Strike here is I'm passing something to you here. The move basically in question was once used by Dante and Creon, and then later me and Dwight, and this is basically that move.
Okay, I see. I'll just take a look at this real quick. But yeah, I get the idea with what you're trying to go with for this.
I mean,
real quick.
For the most part, I did Dante and I did a double Dark Discus Lariat in a match a couple of months ago, I want to say. And, I mean, we basically just sold it that we knocked each other the hell out for about 7 seconds.
If I recall, that's how me and Dwight did it, except there's a shield in the chair involved.
Yeah, but the point is, you can do stuff with it. Honestly, kind of depends, again, on your opponent. If like, for example, if Strikera were to do something like that like, if Strikera and I were to do something like that, she might sell on the ground head, and I'm selling my chest or ribs, even. Actually, probably my ribs. Just because it's gonna, the height difference is gonna be different.
Yeah.
But you can still do the same plan. Still use any cells to show that they both took hits off of that, and those were big hits for both of them.
Yeah, that's pretty much purely hit it on the head. It's a matter of, like, selling after the move has been performed. Like, you can put the animation, the gesture. It's what you do after the animation has played afterwards, and you're both on the ground that really counts. So I hope that answered your question, Saphira.
It did.
Sweet. Dante, I believe you had a question for us.
Yeah, it's kind of two questions. I know you went over it once before, but could you possibly talk again about overselling and just kind of your opinion? Which cell HUD do you think is probably the better one to use? Because I've used Cell It, Reflex, and Q2, and like Like reflex is good, but it's very script heavy. Sell it is simple, but it's very old. And Q2 seems to be the most balanced of them. I was just wondering your opinion.
Oh, those are excellent questions. I was actually going to cover overselling later on, but I'll actually cover it right now. So overselling is overselling is a case by case basis. Overselling is generally only used if you are trying to make an opponent's signature or finisher look amazing in front of a crowd, or it's for a ultra hype match, like basically a match that's been really hyped up, and you really want to get the crowd pumping. You can do it with other moves other than signatures and finishers, but it's generally something that you want to use in moderation or something that is based on the gimmick that you're running. I'll use myself as an example. So a lot of you know Striker is a very stubborn, high determination individual. She doesn't know when to quit. You can literally beat the hell out of her, and she'll keep persevering. Depravity knows this all too well, given our famous match that happened in February, where she hit me with a steel step. She power bombed me through a table. She literally, was just demolishing me in the match. But I was still getting back up. But I was showcasing the pain and endurance during that, and it works because of the gimmick. Because superheroes, they don't know when to quit, and you want to kind of showcase that. But the thing is, you also got to understand that there is a price for the overselling and doing that sort of thing as well. And that's going to get covered in my next point. In the next point, I'll be covering shortly on entrances and post-match selling. But generally, you work with your opponent to determine if an oversell is appropriate for the match and for the gimmick that you're wanting to do, and also in a sense for the storyline too. Like, do you need to oversell for this particular storyline? Do you need to go over the top for it? These are things that should be considered, and something that you should always work out with your opponent. Dialogue is a very, very vital tool for ensuring that the matches run smoothly. Mm-hmm. The second point I'm going to go on real quick in regards to selling HUDs. Personally, in my personal preference and opinion, I prefer Q2, mainly because less script heavy. I really like the cells that are in Reflex, particularly like Dizzy Fight or like Step Stumble, stuff like that. But at the same time, I agree with you, Dante. The script, it is a very script heavy HUD. And there's something I can actually share with everyone, which I'll do at the end of the class. I ripped out a lot of the animations from Reflex and created gestures using those animations for people that like the idea of using Reflex but don't want to actually have the HUD active during a match. You can actually take those animations, put them into your wrestling HUD. I believe they all actually already exist in HUDs like GeForce and Prime, but I got the animations anyway. So essentially, you could take those, put them in your HUD, and use them just like a regular gesture. Type out the command. And it cuts down on a lot of back and forth. You don't have to use two different HUDs at once, like two different selling HUDs at once. And it just makes things easier to go with, because you can also like keybind it to like a macro or to your keyboard to play instantly if need be as well, or even integrate it into a move that you perform. I hope that answers your questions, Dante. Sweet. All right. There is no other questions. Let's go quickly scroll through. I don't think there's any more, so I'll go cover the next point, which is entrance and post-match selling. How many times have you all been to a wrestling event and you've seen a wrestler come out and they do, hold on, let me just show, for example. Bear with me one moment. Gotta make this practical. So let me just illustrate real quick. How many of you actually have seen a wrestler come out just like this to a match? They walk in, kind of static. They ring in, go to the corner, wait for the match to start. Do nothing else. First impressions are key. If you are trying to sell yourself to a crowd, you want to come out looking like the hottest thing ever. Like you want to come out with a kind of a good entrance, have an AO that's like have things like, for example, we have a just like an AO that you could just turn on. For example, when I come out as Strikera, and I'll just go back here and showcase again real quick. You want to do things that, that hype up the crowd. Let's say, for example, I run around the ring, high five everyone, go upstairs, I ring in, and then again to the middle, and then I do my intro gesture. How much better does that look? Especially if you had your intro video playing. So this applies for just the idea of coming out there. You want to show the crowd what you are. If you want to show if you're a face, if you're a heel. For example, if you're a heel, prime example. How many people have seen the work of the likes of Felicia and Chelsea in their respective feds? They come out and Chelsea flips off the crowd. She shouts at Kine because he's got a cats wrestle better sign, and she interacts with him. Or Felicia, she goes around, she spits water in people's face. Things like that really
if
get...
I may weigh in, Striker.
Yeah, sure. What you got?
Sorry to interrupt about that. Another example, what I often do is Solstice. It's the moment my theme plays, I actually activate backstage and I fly out on jet boots, for example, and fly around the crowd to hype things up.
Yeah, that's a good example. You want to do things that will make the crowd want to come back and see you wrestle again. They're not just here for your in-ring action. They're here to basically see you as a performer. We're all performers, and we all have something to bring to the table. For me, I'm coming in, superhero, a lot of hyper energy, never say die attitude. I showcase that. Saphira said, comes in with jet boots, shows she's Iron Man, furry Iron Man sort of character, that sort of thing. Alex literally flips off everything. Literally everything. Eris, she comes in, all demonic smoke, phasmophobia shit. Dante comes in, comes with this really, really ominous music and just kind of steps in and, all Undertaker style, like really like getting people booing almost immediately. That sort of thing. Like you come in and you present yourself to the crowd, they're going to be wanting more. They're going to be wanting to hate you more if you're a heel, and they're going to be wanting to love you more if you're a face. But there's the other side to it. How do you exit a match after it's done? Purity, if you don't mind, do your finish on me. And then pin me.
Yay, don't mind if I do.
Dream killer time.
Okay,
Come
1,
on.
2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Okay. All right, go showboat to the crowd and whatnot. Okay.
Damn, I'm evil.
Now, while she's doing that, watch what I do, and I'll show you a common problem that has happened time and time again that we've witnessed over the years.
No.
How many of you hated seeing that?
I know I did.
Ugh.
Yep, that's what I thought.
Strike Carrier, you're going to have to take your own selling class.
Well, I had to show a bad example to
I
illustrate
know.
the problem where selling isn't just remotely towards your match action. It's also how you handle things after the match is over. So if I just get Depravity to do her finisher again, I'll show kind of the correct way that it should be handled. All right, 1, 2, 3. So she's showboating. She just won the match. I'm just gonna do a get stunned. So I'm actually hurting. I can do like an AS head, an AS back, really showcasing the ferocity of Depravity's finisher. And then let's say I want to basically ring out. So I could just no, not that one. Sorry, F9. So let's say F9, immediately collapse outside the ring. Because no matter how tough you are, you just took a headshot from a finisher. Your head's gonna be rattled. Your actually, Hammond's got a point. I could have done like a toss out as well. That's a good point. But like, you want to showcase that you just took a finisher and you want to sell appropriately. Then I could do like a flip to crawl. Again, you have to work with the orientation of your animation as well. And then I could, if I wanted to, I could crawl backstage. But for this one, I'm just gonna do an FD. I'm just gonna get up, maybe sell Aqua, and just kind of stagger back slowly. So I show that I actually took the damage, and I'm dealing with the aftermath.
Also accurate, Ray.
All right. Oh, Alex, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, just really quick. You absolutely nailed everything on the head, and I wanted to kind of expand on it for someone who might not realize it. I did a class here a couple of times about ring psychology and how to be a face and how to properly apply heat and do a comeback. So if you sell properly, like Shakira did for Purity's finisher, and you have a match like the next day or within 2 days, you can still be selling Purity's finisher from the day before or 2 days before and carry that into your next match and have the heel target whatever was hurt from the day before, which will still get over Purity's finisher for still having those lasting effects and already have like that pre-built obstacle built in for you to overcome. So you already have a story to like overcome and work with for your match like 2 days down the road. So it gives you a jumping off point. Like proper selling like that can help you down the road, not just for that match also. So it's something to think about.
Nailed it on the head. Yeah, very much nailed it on the head. That was actually going to be one of my next points to cover too, but you actually expanded on it really well. But you can see where no, you're good. You're good. I'm actually glad. But you can see how just adding to your performance when you enter and when you exit the match just makes that match look believable. Nothing screams a lack of professionalism and also a lack of respect to your opponent than no selling their finisher, getting up and leaving because you're like, okay, the match is over, I want to get out of here because I'm done. Like, you're still a performer, the show's still going on, your commitment to the performance ends the moment that you go backstage, not when the match bell ends. Okay, Dante, please go ahead.
Is there ever a time you should no sell?
There is times that you can, and I believe Hannah did touch base on it when Puri was going through with the Powerhouse segment. You can no sell with basic moves. So, okay, let's say for example, like you're let's say for example you're doing chops to someone like a Powerhouse or someone that can take those, like someone that is very imposing, that like they can take the hit but they don't feel like it, like they just stand there being like, oh yeah, come on, keep hitting me. Like that is a good example of no selling. But again, it comes down to talk it out with your opponent for when something is appropriate to no sell. Don't just think that, oh, I can just no sell this instinctively. It's because it's more so something that requires discussion, something that requires it requires that to be communicated in order for not only the match to go off without a hitch, but also to a degree for comms to sell that too. Because hey, there might be a point where you want to illustrate, hey, this guy just literally took a particular move or and didn't look phased by it. That sort of thing, comms can sell really well. So there are points to no selling. It's just more so the same idea with overselling. It's a case by case sort of thing that you just need to talk out with your opponents before you actually enter the ring. So when you're writing your match cards, discuss what your plans are, what your intentions are, work things out, and have an amazing time. I hope that answered your question. Sweet. If there's any other questions before I continue on?
I think Beth Ann had two.
Oh, sure. Please go ahead. Go ahead, Foxy.
Oh, okay, I'm going to do a voice for this one. It makes it a little bit easier. The first one, this is about selling, like when you do a meet and greet. Would it be more appropriate to sell some of the injuries that you received in the match, or just come out and say, oh, blah, 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 okay, the end of the show.
Okay,
Sell
that's
the meet
an
and greet, says I. But
yeah. That's a really excellent question. That also gets covered under post-match selling as well as non-match selling, which is the next kind of segue that I'll be going into. But generally, when you sell, you want to be selling at meet and greets. Even if you want a match, you want to be still selling at meet and greets to a degree. And it could just be simple. Let's say you do like a yellow sell, just go here. It's like, oh, hey, Cammy, Saphira, thanks for coming out. Sorry, I'm a little beat up. Or like, for example, like if it was a really hard fought match, like, oh, geez, I'm just exhausted. I'm just gonna rest against this turnbuckle while I chat with the fans. Don't mind me, just nursing my head. I could use some ice right about now. Like that sort of thing really the crowd eats that shit up. They absolutely love it. And if you can interact with the crowd and show, hey, I'm okay, don't worry. This happens all the time. I get getting beat up, but like, hey, came away with the win, or I'll get them next time. That's like, if you can do that for your fan base, for people that attend the shows, they'll keep coming back. They want to keep following your story. And that's where it really matters. And you can even have like extras involved. Let's say you got bloodied during match. Let's say, for example, Alex and Cammy got into a match that involved Legos, and the Lego pieces are still sticking to them, and they're a little bit bloodied, but they're still coming out to meet the crowd. You can have pliers showing, okay, they got a bit of cuts. They got Lego pieces sticking on them. They've, they just showing that they've just went through hell. And they could maybe even have like medical orderlies with them, treating them while they're chatting with the crowd. Or like one time when I got my neck hurt and I came out with the cone of shame. That was a time that I kind of regret, but at the same time, it added to the crowd. People loved it because we didn't have any neck braces back then because medical supply shortages.
yeah, we'll go with that.
I've even had plants in the audience, like during my debut and also in that match with Purity. I got thrown out of the ring over the barricade, popped up, and started swinging at audience plants. So nobody knew who was safe and who wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For me and Strike Heroes match, we got Ray to kind of be an audience plant for us for a key spot.
Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, in actuality, everyone else that was near that box with the light tubes basically became a plant with all that mercury dust that they caught.
That was so good.
Yeah, it really was. But like this goes into, like, to answer your question, Foxy, this goes into non-match selling where you basically want to showcase, okay, these are the injuries I got. So you come out with like medical tape, bandages. Maybe you might be in a cast. Maybe you might be in a wheelchair. Maybe you might be on a stretcher, but you still want to meet the fans. You still want to show the fans, hey, I'm okay, but I'm hurting real bad after this match. You really want to showcase that you got injured, but you're still kicking, and your opponent put you through hell, but you're gonna come back sooner or later. And it could be as simple. Let's say, for example, you broke your leg in a match. You still want to show up to the shows, but you're not going to be wrestling. So show up with crutches and a cast in the crowd. Or maybe you might, show up on comms while you're injured. Or, if you have Twitter, go on Twitter. Take pictures of your recovery period. Like, tweet things out, show images. Hell, even put together a video montage of you slowly recovering from your injuries over the course of a week or several weeks. That way you get hype, especially if you're in a feud. And this will help with promoting, like if you're a face and you just got your shit kicked in by a heel, this makes the heel look good. This makes people hate the heel. This gives them heat. This hypes up, a rematch. And if it's a heel that got injured by a face, that heel can use that and be like, oh, look what this face did to me. And, they could bitch about it. Like, like how Johnny bitches about almost literally anything nowadays on Twitter. That sort of thing, people eat up. Like, they absolutely love it. And if you can do that, you'll go a long way, because that sort of thing is what starts storylines. That sort of thing is what starts, runs for the belt. That sort of thing is what starts amazing memories for not only yourself, but members of the roster, and also your own fed and fans that follow you. They will retain those memories forever if you can put in the effort to showcase yourself like that in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answered your question, Foxy. And I believe you had a second question, but I also wanted to state to anyone here if they had any other questions about non-match selling.
Yeah, let Dante go first.
All right, Dante, let's hear your next one.
No, I didn't have another question.
Oh, I guess someone else did then.
Selling on Twitter.
Oh, selling on Twitter?
E.
Yeah, so selling on Twitter involves tweeting pictures, tweeting out messages, putting out videos.
Being able to show the fans the story behind the scenes after they leave the show. For instance, in a match that I had against Shakira, I bit her on the butt. And there was a follow-up picture on Shakira's Twitter of them at the hospital with a bite mark on their butt getting treated.
Yes, we all remember that moment. But moments like that are very crucial to showcase. Also, honorable mention, my feud with Lotus back in the FWF days, sorry?
Oh, sorry. Continue.
No, you're good. You're good. Where basically Lotus kicked my butt, took control of my Twitter, and started posting stuff up of me in servitude to Lotus. That sort of thing went over so well, to the point that people literally thought my account got hacked, and they wanted to basically report my account to Twitter. Like, it worked so well, the heat that it got. But again, showcasing getting beat up, showcasing injuries, showcasing you recovering. I did something similar for when Lady N put me in hospital, where I took several photos with people that were visiting me in hospital, and I showed up to shows in a wheelchair and a neck brace. And I was out of competition for a good number of weeks before I made my return. And the crowd went freaking wild.
It's also a wonderful way in order to convey story so people come to the show, they see the way that we interact with each other during the show. But if there's not enough time to do an interaction with someone, it's a good idea to use Twitter as sort of like a virtual theater. So if I wanted to start a beef with Shakira, but couldn't do it during a show, could easily do it to Twitter, and then reference said Twitter posts or activities when we're in the ring together.
Indeed, very much so. All right. I think that covers pretty much the points I wanted to make. Is there any other questions that folks have before we move on to our practical exercise?
Ray has a comment.
Oh, what you got, Ray?
Hello. Yes. I wanted to bring up some like more examples of how people over the times have been like selling on the way to the ring in terms of like selling their character and stuff. Like there's one of my favorites is like Escarlata just runs out to the ring and meows all over the place. That's one of my favorite examples. And then there's me who does a pose with like kind of face away from the crowd and I do like a spy like pose and then I go to the ring. Yeah, that meow right there.
Yes, very much. Yeah, yeah. Like points like that, they're great. They and people remember you for that. People remember Escalada for that. People remember any wrestler that they go to see. They always have something that they remember them by for what they've done in the ring. Like for example, Dante. Everyone remembers when you took people's souls and the way that you did it. They remember those moments. On how you sold that, how you basically went to the effort of looking for a way to collect those souls, like visually, and represent that. And it really sold how well that moment basically translated. So you should be proud of that. Other folks here should be proud of what they do as well. Like Alex, you literally test the boundaries of wherever or whatever height you can find, and you just jump off it and you terrify everyone by doing so. But you make your matches look like gold. Like your recent match with Shango, for example, where you got yeeted into a coffin, was spectacular, absolutely spectacular. And everyone here is capable of doing amazing things. It's just putting into practice, talking it out with your opponents, and doing your research. Like, see what's possible. Work with your production team if that's needed. And everyone here can have just basically everyone here is capable of having their 5 out of 5 match. Is there any other questions? All right. If not, then we're going to move on to the final bit of our class today, and that's the practical side of it. So, we will need 6 volunteers.
Why are you
You'll
so
be
hard?
you'll be each put into groups of 2. You will have 10 to 15 minutes to write out a small spot to a spot and a half match that you will showcase in front of everyone. And you will need to showcase what you've learned from our classes today. And you will be critiqued afterwards by not only us, but also by your fellow classmates. So can I get some volunteers? All right, we got Saphira.
Do we want to record this? I'd say yes.
Yes, we'll record this part as well.
Also, big shout out and thank you to Sashi, who's doing the
Yes.
recording. They are
Yes.
a good bean and are amazing.
All right.
Luca volunteered.
Luke Cross is in. So I think that's two. That's 2 so far. So we need 4 more.
Cammy.
So Eris.
Are you volunteering yourself?
I think she
Cammy.
volunteered. No,
I'm
it's
the
totally Eris.
dean. I am the dean. You cannot.
Yeah, but it's our class.
I gotta go do affiliate stuff. Bye. Love y'all.
Come
There she
on.
goes.
Aw.
Voluntold, yeah.
Okay, so we got Saphira. Luca, why don't you go ahead and come over the barricade?
Yeah, just come over the barricade. You can already get started with Saphira on organizing yourselves. Slies offered themselves.
Sure.
Folks, don't be shy. We can also have
Do it random.
yeah. We are a intergender and interspecies class. So basically, like, you could pick whoever opponent you want. So I'm just seeing who else.
Keep in mind, to have access to the equipment, you need to be wearing your school tag.
Yeah.
Yeah, accurate.
But if not, then you can just have no tag on and just do your part in the ring.
Yeah, you can just jump in there.
Okay, Dante, you can go up against Sly.
All right. Can we get 2 more?
I think Turok. Turok, are you volunteering? I saw
I
that
think
you.
that's a yes. Yeah, they swapped out.
So,
How about Turok and Foxy?
Yeah. Foxy, you go
Foxy.
for it?
Yeah, actually, no, because I was going to be ducking out here in the next few minutes to try and finish up my match card for tomorrow night.
Oh, no
you're
worries.
good. All right, you're good. Who wants to face Turok then?
Ray.
On, Ray.
I know you like pit me against Dante, but I kind of want.
Come on.
I want that STK.
STK versus Reagan. Come on.
Oh, you want to swap? I mean, if you want to swap, we're happy to do so. We could put Dante against someone else.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
STK, get in here.
and Sylvia, go ahead and get the carding. Who wants to fight Dante?
Saphira. Wait, Riley, you get in there.
I thought you guys paired me with Luca.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Saphira's fighting Luca, so yeah.
Dante versus Riley?
You game, Riley?
Let me go yell at her real quick.
It'd actually make for a really good Powerhouse versus Powerhouse display.
I think it would.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm going to say that's a yes.
Fucking raptor? Oh my god!
Okay. All right, so Dante versus Riley, Saphira versus, or Solstice versus
Luca.
Lucas, and STK and Sly. Cool.
All right, Riley, head out of the ring. You got to write a card with Dante. There are 3 other rings. If y'all want to utilize those, or there are 3 rings total. If you want to utilize those while we're waiting. One even has a cage. Ooh.
Quick question: are we writing like a full card or just
No.
segment?
Just like a spot, maybe a spot and a half.
Yeah. One spot to a spot. Yeah, one spot to a spot and a half. Pretty much is what we're going for here.
Let me see about getting a note card open then.
Riley, get with Dante, hon.
While they're going about that, I can field any other questions or discussions regarding selling, and Purity will field any questions regards to Powerhouse.
Yeah.
I have a question for Purity.
Go right ahead.
Why are you so large?
Genetics.
Okay.
Next question.
Why are you so thick? No.
Again, genetics. Also awesome. Also, sliders.
Yeah,
But
go ahead.
that's-
Sliders too.
Sorry,
Yes,
go ahead, Rocky. What's your comment?
Yeah, what's your question, Rocky?
Me.
Keep in mind to be careful how you're selling. There is a possibility of overselling. There is also the possibility that maybe you want to interact outside of the Fed, outside of Second Life, maybe say Twitter, Discord, anything. You want to interact with a fan and they're thinking you're in character, or you're suddenly interacting with someone that has literally no knowledge of Second Life Pro Wrestling or pro wrestling itself. Please do be careful because this is a situation I'm gonna see. I'm not gonna mention any name, but we have seen situations where a wrestler is trying to get heel heat by talking to someone who is a pro wrestling fan but has no idea that they're in character or Second Life Pro Wrestling. And it gets to the point where that person just sees it as trolling and you could get your account suddenly out. Bye. Adios. Vamos.
We actually cover that in the do's and don'ts of what to do in another class that Strakir and I teach. We actually cover that. Going to be doing that one again soon, right, Strikey?
Yeah, we pretty
In
much
the,
scheduling. Yeah, it's the ethics of SL
Ethics-
wrestling class.
Basically the do's and don'ts of how to act as a wrestler at the after shows, as a wrestler going to see a show at a different Fed, and how to act when on Twitter. So
Yeah, but still, just keep in mind of overselling, because if you try to sell it too hard, it's not gonna be believable. Is what I'm saying.
well, I think that every sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that everything has to be taken with a grain of salt. Sometimes you're correct. Overselling thing like I stubbed my toe, I broke my foot. That would not be appropriate. But it's hard to portray things to a degree with what we have right now on Second Life. So we do what we can. So like if Purity picked me up and yeeted me through this brick wall, if I just nip up and ran at her or did a dodge roll to get up and did a drop kick to them, that's not believable at all. So you really got to find that happy medium between the two and ride the line pretty close.
Basically.
But I think that one of the points that Rocky is making though is you got to know your audience is part of it too. Especially when you're dealing with things like outside of SL wrestling, where you're dealing with somebody on Twitter or something like that. Some people can get very, they maybe just don't have the context. So kind of be aware of that. Just kind of know the person that you're interacting with a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't even hurt to just say, hey, just, slide aside. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. So that way there's no confusion or no, misrepresentation or something like that. So that can be an easy solution for something along those lines, where if you're worried about kind of, all right, you're trying to get a storyline going or something like that, or you're interacting with somebody thinking they're want to interact with your storyline, but actually it's a little bit different. Those sort of miscommunications, I think, just a quick bit of, maybe like a DM discussion or something like that could be a quick way to alleviate that.
Yeah, basically that's that's what I was trying to say. Other than the overselling, because I'm gonna be honest. A lot of us has been I've been here since 2016, and it's not the first time I've seen someone who they don't know their crowd, or they don't know how to sell, and the next thing you know they get in trouble and they're suddenly out of the game for something that they didn't mean badly. And that's what I mean by overselling and taking it someone outside of a Fed or Second Life.
Yeah, that's fair. As I said, kind of comes down to probably best to know your audience. Just be aware of cues. If somebody's expressing confusion or something like that, talk to them about it. Just go, oh, hey, my bad. Here's what we're talking about. And yeah, be aware that there's just limits sometimes.
I'm just gonna mute for a little bit while I just have something to eat because it's lunchtime. So, Purity, if you don't mind taking over, fielding some questions.
Damn, I was just for a minute. Oh well.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
It'll
I
wait.
can
No, it'll wait.
I can cover some stuff.
Okay, fine.
Okay, Eric,
Any other questions, comments, anything anybody would like to ask or mention? I know we've covered a lot so far. Okay, cool. It's all pretty self-explanatory. If there's damage to a limb, you want to sell it as best you can. A lot of the time, so new damage based on old damage. Something that I do is wait, what? What did you want to say?
I wanted to say, like, when you're doing anything in Twitter, this is what I had to tell Renee. First, set up your Twitter in the sense of there are settings in Twitter that you set up for adult only. And also, whenever you make a post, before you make that little whatever you want to say in character, that's literally the best thing. And also, I run a clinic, so it's kind of like in that case, when we do photos and everything with the doctors and the nurses and everything else, that is also another way. If you know of anybody who's running a clinic, I think I'm the only one that's running a wrestler clinic, but there are probably others. I'm not too sure, but
market right there.
yeah, I run the Thorny Rose Clinic, and it's comic book and ad base. But it, still, because Renee was asking me about that, and I said just write in character whatever you gonna say.
Oh,
Out of character, whatever you're gonna say. That's all they got.
In regards to that as well, well, two things. I think I think this is the only school at the moment for wrestling. Don't quote me on that. Huh?
I'm pretty sure there used to be another school, but with the lack of interest, obviously they had to shut down.
I've heard that they pop up every so often and go away just as quickly. But I'm hoping that this lasts because we're trying to keep it open to all and teach every aspect. Like I want to get Helios in here and do photography and get a couple of move creators in here to show how to do that as well. But one of the things that I've seen a lot of people do as far as Twitter is to actually separate their character from them, separate their avatar from their character. So, like, take Shango, for instance. Shango has an in-character Twitter, and then he has an After Dark Twitter. So, to catch wrestling news, ideas, storyline from Shango, you'd go to his main Twitter. And to catch anything you wouldn't normally expect to see from him, that's up on his After Dark account.
Cameron, quick question.
What?
Could we borrow you for a quick rest spot in this example?
Sure.
Also, to follow up with what Sandaris said, it's not a bad idea to also have a personal Twitter apart from your wrestling Twitter, because honestly, it wouldn't be the first time.
Oh, I'm lagging real bad. I don't think I can. Sorry.
No worries.
I'll cover for Cameron if you want.
All right, if you don't
Hold on
mind.
a second. Let me just try. Let's try.
Yep.
Oop. Fuck. Come on. Fuck. Come on. Fuck.
I believe in you, Cameron. You can do it.
No, I can't.
That's okay, Cameron. No worries.
Remember, go punch
Lagging
the
too
router.
much.
The router deserves all.
Thank you for attempting to, Cameron.
Yeah, you're
Mind,
fine.
Rocky?
It's fine.
You're perfectly fine, Cameron. You made the attempt. It's the router that failed to punch the router. Punch the shit out of it.
Yeah, you do it, buddy.
But yeah. So also a good way to separate the two on Twitter is to on my Twitter page it is strictly stated that all posts are made from in character, unless otherwise notated. And when I do that, I always type with some sort of parentheses or some sort of symbol showing out of character post before I do anything on Twitter. But I try, for the most part, I try and keep everything on the Sandaris Twitter to be strictly about wrestling or what she's doing outside of the ring to continue the story that I've got going with her.
All right, I'm back. Sorry for the wait.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Oh, not much. They needed a ref for ref selling, so I'm gonna do my best, I guess. I'm a little blind on this idea, though.
Hold on, Rocky. I'm writing out the example card of the spot right now, and I will be sending it to you and Luca for what we just discussed.
All perfect then. Okay, I still have the old tank top. Yeah, fuck it, I'll just...
Okay, there you go, Luca. Just send that over your way. Rocky, sending you this over your way. Let me know if that looks good, Luca. Because I'm not sure how exactly your move key is keyed up, so I tried my best.
Alright, I think I'm ready. Unless you need to target me as well.
No, you're just doing the ref count. That's all for the example.
Alright.
So does that look good, Luca?
I mean, you could probably add maybe a little bit more to it because that's barely even a spot.
All right.
Well, I'd say honestly a good 2 to 3 minutes, maybe. We want to do these as examples.
If this goes as timed as I think it will, it's probably
Yeah, they're not supposed to be full-on matches.
30. Well, no, but I mean, a segment itself should take at least up to 4 to 5 minutes minimum.
All right, I could add a little bit more.
Right? Yeah, okay, so like there. Okay. Okay, so you do outlaw punches, speed counter. So outlaw punches at your height would be my chest. So that'd be any cell's chest.
Yep, I'm not sure what else to add for you, Luca, because I don't know exactly your movesets.
Oh, to be fair, Luca herself is a powerhouse, but I think the best case here also let Luca add her own thing and then...
Yeah, that's why I passed her the card at this point.
Yeah. I mean, no, Luca was here, I think, ever since I first saw Second Life Wrestling, so she's a veteran. She's a returning one, but she's a veteran nonetheless.
wrist. You still punched me in the tip. At that point. Alright. So after that, the choke started. How was choke slam start? That was all one thing. Oh no, there was a. What's it start? Okay, good.
Also, for those of you that are interested, I'm going to be working with Cami, Strakira, Purity, and a few of the other teachers to try and get a core curriculum done for the class, or for the school, for people that want to train through the school as well.
I have to defend her boots. I have to be behind.
If that is of interest to anyone.
Okay, so.
Also, if you'll notice on the back wall next to the doors, we have a belt. It's really shiny, more shiny than Ray's. Haha,
Wow.
suck it, Ray. I'm kidding.
What are you though?
No, but I am. But I'm not. But I am.
And this is normal cat behavior where they just become an asshole.
Hey, you know what? You know what, Rocky?
Careful with your words. I'm also a cat if you haven't noticed.
I don't need words. I can just blow raspberries at you. I'm just gonna sit here and enjoy my ramen.
Yes, ribs.
All right, I think we've given enough time. How you two doing there?
So it's gonna be his last little
Has it been 15 minutes already?
I think it's been about that, yeah.
Okay.
I think Lucas should be just about done adding in her stuff. She just needs to pass it back to me.
Okie-doke.
What did I just do? That wasn't working. Okay, so. Okay, I think that'll do it. Alright. I just need to get out of this. I've got enough cards. Me. I tell you what you way. You can go up there. You can get the hell out of my way. You can shut down.
If I should have included my selling in there, Lucas, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, I've got it. And that looks good.
Okay, I think we're going.
Yep. Okay, we're ready to go.
All right, sweet.
Okay. You did ask for a ref.
All right.
You two ready?
Everyone, time is up. Please reconvene in the main wrestling hall when you are ready.
All right, we'll wait till they say start.
Oh, sorry, Star.
Ready with you both, Strike here.
Mm-hmm. Just wait. Just give me a sec.
Were we doing openings? Are we wearing the walkouts as well, or not?
So was that Luca? You kind of broke up a little bit.
Were we doing the walkouts as well, or just straight into the party?
Oh, Well,
It's getting a little bit late, so I'd say let's go straight in.
we'll go straight into it. But like, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure we covered walkouts in my
Yeah, we did.
You did.
in what I
Making sure.
discussed before. So yeah, we'll just get into it. All right. Rocky, start the match at your discretion.
All right. I guess I'll depend on the old card.
I thought you already had it. Sorry. There you go.
Oh, let me actually pass it to you. Okay, shit.
Got it. I got it. I got through it.
Okay. Bring it, ref.
Ready?
Wait a second. All right, ready.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. Thanks, Queen, for nothing. What?
I don't know what happened there.
It's active. Why is it not? Active shouldn't be. Oh my god, I'm missing that part. Can you invert?
Yeah, I could invert it. Hold on. Sit. So, yep. So, go for a pickup here, real quick. Yeah.
Right. You better not. I swear to God, you. No, that's why I think it's missing.
All right, ref 2 cap. FD kick out.
Is it FP? Is it?
Yeah, it's FD kick out. Yeah.
Oh, there it goes.
Yep. All right. So, yep, I gotta get up for this. And I think that's what we got.
Paladin, Strikera, Purity, what do you guys think of what they did?
I'm sorry, was
This
that
is
Rocky?
really-
You're a little muffled.
It was really horrible.
What I saw was actually pretty good selling at the beginning from Luca Cross. They were utilizing the any cells after Saphir unleashed those barrage of punches and then countered appropriately. I did see, obviously, there was some hiccups with the with some of the moves, but like you both knew what parts to sell, even though you were slow with the match, you still kind of understood. Okay, where am I supposed to be hitting my opponent? Where I am getting hit? What am I going to be doing in regards to showcasing that? Like you both have really good knowledge of that. The only thing that I can point out is obviously the speed of the match needs to match the flow of it. Like obviously it is a little bit challenging given that we only gave you a certain amount of time to card this and without practice, but like this is how you learn going forward. You learn on the fly and you learn through experience, and hopefully both of you will be able to walk away from this with a better understanding on how to handle yourself in matches going forward. Peter, you got any points you want to cover?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I said the only real hiccup I saw was the looks like it was a choke slam that we had an animation problem with.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm missing the 2x, and I've been fighting this problem with GeForce for a minute.
Okay, well, like I said, don't worry about it. It's slightly off topic, but that is definitely a thing that pre-match. Obviously, you want to verify and make sure everything's working. So this was short notice. So obviously, little mistakes like this will happen.
Well, I think it was also because I'm not using the original choke slam. I'm using the newer one.
I don't know where to get the newer one, so I used the older one. That's what I had, and I inverted it for Luca.
No worries.
And apparently I'm missing the 2x higher.
Okay. Now again,
dropped it.
Hiccups occur. That's why we run practices. But again, it was short notice, so no big deal.
Keep in mind,
but overall, I think you guys did fine.
Keep in mind, Luca, you're also returning from a long inactivity moment, and I think, like Purity said, hiccups are gonna happen. That we're all human. We all make mistake. And that's why every federation it's its own team. They're willing to help you correct your mistake. They're willing to help you improve, and they're willing to take days after days when we're all free to practice. It doesn't even have to be training with the same fed. You can practice with someone in a different fed in a private area, and you'll get the hang of it again soon.
Very true. Yes, actually, Dante, I was gonna suggest that you and Rick you and Riley go ahead right away, because I know it's getting late for you. I do apologize. Right.
Well,
thank you again to.
Unless they need another ref, I'm hopping off the ring.
Hey, why don't you jump in as Jake? Are you waiting to do that?
Oh, geez, yeah. Hold on, let me change up. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, that was tricky on the fly, and the get-ups were my fault. Strike here, that was my fault because I wasn't sure. I didn't know Lucas' style, so it was my fault there.
That's fine. Like I said, experience helps. All right, we'll just wait for Jake to arrive. Then we'll do this. Also, very much appreciate everyone coming out tonight for the class. It's been a blast. I know it's late, but I very much appreciate all you attending.
All right.
I'm just glad to be back into it.
Good lord.
I just didn't know I was going to be spending so much on fucking moves.
One, turn off the 8. What?
Bruh, I feel you. Yeah.
I remember the days of the
I've
gotcha.
used this for a while.
Can I go back to the gotcha days, please?
Okay.
I still have like 7 gotcha moves. There was 8, but then I just got time to delete one of them.
I think like gotchas are illegal now.
Yeah, but still.
All right. You two ready? All right.
Might want to move, Gary.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I don't know where you are. You might want to move.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
That's all we got.
Okay, you're both knocked out. Good job.
Okay, that was
Fastest
really
count ever.
that was for short notice. Practical exam that was actually really good.
Yeah.
I didn't really see anything that, I didn't see anything that was really noticeably like wrong or it needed correction for it. There was a tad bit of slowness, but was very impressed with how you were all kind of selling. The only thing, Riley, you might want to kind of hit the maybe hit the yellow key when you like the yellow fatigue in between your punches, or like speed up the punches a little bit, like if you have it on a keybind. But other than that, it was superb. That ending with the double dark discus was great. That's a really good example of like the two powerhouses going at it, and they're not giving up. Like they're not giving an inch. Like even you, Dante, when you took a punch from Riley, you stood your ground. You didn't drop your knee. You basically you rolled with the punch. You sold, but you also didn't show weakness.
If anybody wants the double dark discus lariat, I can pass it to them. Sorry, I didn't have my mic by my face.
No
You're
worries.
fine. I'm very much would love a copy.
But yeah. Overall, I thought you guys both did a really good job.
That's actually, I passed you the same thing, Strike Fear, when I asked my question.
Oh, it's the same one. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's the same one.
One thing that is interesting, this is something again, kind of getting back to like the any cells. Dante, you're using just like the base. You're using what, like Q2's cell head, I think, the standing head.
Yeah, Q2 is what I use.
Yeah. So if you want to like oversell, like a big hit or something like that, that's where like the AS head can come in handy for that as well, because it's got a little bit more animation to it too. So any selling is good selling. So definitely, use what you've got and what you're comfortable with and what works. But that looked good.
That very much appreciated. All right.
I think it's STK and Sly.
Yep. You two ready to go?
Me in the cage.
Oh, you want to do it in the cage? All right, everyone,
God.
come over here. They want to do it in the cage.
Ooh, empty cage match.
I don't want to get in the cage match.
Get in the cage. You're being paid $0.
Wait, I thought you were
We're
going to give me a lollipop.
We're doubling your pay. No, tripling your pay.
That's
Triple
tripling.
figures.
Nothing?
Yeah. Still
Triple zero,
nothing.
zero, zero.
Oh, let me do the math on this. Okay, nothing plus nothing. I'll carry the nothing.
Eris has her own door.
Nice pocket limit.
I have fond memories of this cage. One of y'all want to throw me that match card?
I was about to say.
Actually, I should probably just ask. Are there any pinfalls or anything like that I need to worry about? Okay, who keeps rattling in the cage?
That's news to me too.
All right. All right. Do you guys have your card ready? Bueller.
About that.
Go on. Are you guys going to freeform this? Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, cool. Well, let's see how this goes then. Just tell me when to get out of the way. Are you two ready?
Shall we dance?
Toya!
And scene.
What are you doing on the ground?
Okay, first off, that was super impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like the speed was phenomenal. I think that you both showcase exactly what is capable of when you're doing both offensive and defensive selling. One of the things I wanted to point out real quick, who here saw what Sly was doing when SCK was like pummeling them?
Using gestures of certain specific voice banks.
Well, yeah, they had the voice gesture, but did you see what she was doing with her arms during that while she was taking those OS punches?
If I'm not mistaken, she used the any cells as like a blocking type way.
Exactly. Spot on, Saphir. That is another thing that you can do with any cells. They act as blocks in certain situations. If you're in the corner and you're taking OS punches, or you basically can do an AS head to block the incoming blows to make it look like that you're trying to put up some kind of resistance, some kind of defense. And it really illustrated in the match. It showcased that you shouldn't have to just take the punches. You can block them and lessen the damage and showcase that you're trying to fight back. And that really showed. And on top of the speed, on top of the use of props like the cage, that was a superb spot. Very well done.
Yay! Ow.
Yeah. Both of y'all did really well.
Yay! Ow.
Now somebody has to put the cage door back on, and it's not going to be me.
Other than that, I think we can call the class finished. And thank you again for everyone for attending. This will be up on... Sasha will put this up on YouTube so everyone can review afterwards. But I very much appreciate you all turning up. Big thanks to Purity for doing the class with me, and for Sanderas for allowing us to do these classes at the school.
Oh, absolutely.
And we hope to see you again sometime later for our next session.
Yeah.
Please follow us on Twitter, and join our Discord for more updates on when classes will be happening. And we'll see you again. Class adjourned.